Hello and welcome back to another week's analysis behind the news. For those of us that may have gotten caught up in all the fervor with the 2016 presidential elections, we may have missed a little something over across the big pond, so to speak. And the CNN actually has a headline here. It says, Cameron calls the British referendum on UK's EU membership for June 23rd. Now this is in regards to what's known as Brexit, B-R-E-X-I-T, and that is the exit of Great Britain from the European Union. There's been such a clamor from the people as well as organization over there to actually get out of the European Union so that the sovereignty is actually retained or returned back to Great Britain. The citizens there are just sick and tired of having to deal with the EU on multiple levels, and it seems like the migrant crisis has basically brought this to a head. The interesting thing is, because of all this clamoring, it says in here, it says during marathon meetings in Belgium this week, British Prime Minister David Cameron wrung concessions from the reluctant leaders of the EU's 27 other countries. His country will have special status in the EU if it stays in the EU at all. Now, you would think that those that are opposed to being in the EU would actually be excited about this and would want to embrace this. Yet, one of the leaders of the United Kingdom Independent Party, who's also a member of European Parliament, his name is Nigel Farage. He has come right out and said that these concessions are not legally binding. So, and it's basically based off of the fact that the treaties that have been signed already by all of these countries have stated that there can be no special or preferential treatment given to countries. I mean, basically one that's, whatever is good for one country is good for the rest of the countries. But that's obviously not the case, given what Cameron has gone out and negotiated with these other EU countries. So Nigel is calling the bluff on this one, but yet he's coming out and saying that obviously on June 23rd he will certainly be voting to keep or to get the Great Britain out of the European Union. And Cameron wants to stay in the EU, as I read in there before, and he said he will actually campaign against leaving the European Union. Now recall that something similar had happened in Ireland. When the Treaty of Lisbon came up for ratification, it was actually given to the citizens of Ireland as a referendum. Well, the Irish folks stood up and said, "We don't want this. We have our own constitution. Thank you very much. We don't want this treaty, to tell us what to do." So they got rid of it. They didn't want it. But yet the powers that be, as far as the globalists out there, went into panic mode, and they started their own huge campaign out there to basically con the Irish people into believing that, well, we need this. And so sure enough, several months later, a second vote was scheduled, and all of this propaganda and fear-mongering that the globalists threw at all these folks, unfortunately, it ended up that they went ahead and accepted the Treaty of Lisbon. Now, I think we can draw parallels from that to what we're going to be seeing in Great Britain with what Cameron is talking about as far as campaigning to keep the Great Britain in the EU. So that's rather interesting, and I'm sure that if you haven't seen Nigel Farage in action, I would recommend Googling his name. It's Nigel Farage, is F-A-R-A-G-E, and do a search for his party, the UKIP, UKIP, and they'll have speeches of him posted in on their website. And he gets pretty fired up about independence over there, and we certainly could use a whole bunch of Nigel Farages over here in our Congress. Certainly would be nice. So kind of what we're seeing over in Great Britain is kind of a great awakening. They are feeling the effects of limited sovereignty from the European Union, and they do not want to have any kind of ever closer union, as CNN touts in here. They want to take a step back from it. They don't want to embrace it. Something that's interesting with us is because, if you recall, we have something called the TPP, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that is actually sitting in Congress with a number of calendars being and deadlines being ticked off at this moment. It's in front of the Congress, and as soon as it comes up for debate, since they passed the Trade Promotion Authority, it's they're either going to vote it up or they're going to vote it down without any amendments. And so TPP will actually be one of the steps, as far as having a large regional government. Think about this: the EU, as I'm sure most of the audience is probably well aware, started off, or became ensnared, I should say, with a number of trade agreements. And this is where the British people find themselves, is ensnared in this huge European superstate. And they're trying to, back away from it, which is nice to see. However, if TPP here is signed, which is, again, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but there's also another one, the TTIP, and that's the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. Well, that's basically having us join the EU. And, if the British people are backing away from it, where do we think we would be in another 5, 10, 15, 20 years if these agreements are signed? Could we see ourselves also in the same predicament where, gee, I wish we would have fought a little bit harder, and not have those things signed, because suddenly now, we are ruled by unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats that are in some regional government that's over top of us. Again, a parallel can be drawn back to NAFTA with the tribunals that they have set up there, where businesses have to take their case in front of these tribunals that are, again, unelectable, unaccountable to the American people. And yet these tribunals have gone against the decisions of U.S. jurisprudence. So it's very dangerous, obviously, when it comes to sovereignty. And so if you have an opportunity, go ahead and take a look at jbs.org and thenewamerican.com so that you learn a little bit more about the Transatlantic and Trade Investment Partnership, the TTIP, as well as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. And then jump onto jbs.org, go to our action project page. I believe it's called Choose Freedom, Stop the Free Trade Agenda. And this will give you a bunch of actions to take, including contacting Congress, as well as calling them, sending them emails. We have pre-written emails available for that, and we'll see what we can do also about putting in some of those links in the description of this video. So until next week, we'll see you then.